This is Beyond Average, Episode 5.
The one thing we have in this world is we can't control the events, but we can choose what to focus on, we can choose what things mean, and we can choose what to do.
We're live.
All right, we are live. You are tuning in to Beyond Average, the podcast bringing you a new way of thinking about health, wealth, and entrepreneurship. My name is Corey Anderson.
I am Anthony Palmiato.
And it is Friday around 4:40. And we figured what's there better to do than spend our Friday recording a podcast?
And then hit the gym, baby.
That's right. Want to tell them where they can find us, Paul?
Yeah, check out beyondaveragepodcast.com. You can follow us on social media, facebook.com/beyondaveragepodcast. Yeah. And twitter.com. Our handle is tweetbap.
And today we will be talking about a very fun topic.
Money.
Money. Real money. Not this paper stuff you got in your
Well,
wallet.
we'll talk about fake money, too.
Yeah.
People are like, what the hell are you talking about, fake money? Like counterfeiting?
Yeah, this is actually pretty funny. I was in the doctor's office one time, and I made a little joke. I said, she said, how you paying, cash or credit, my copay?
Yeah.
I said, cash, baby. I said, this stuff's trash. I don't even want it. And they all start laughing, like, oh, yeah, right. Trash,
You don't want it.
I call trash as cash. That's what Robert says, and he's fucking right, it is. But they all started laughing, and I was like, you guys just
They had no idea what you were talking about.
They don't know. They think cash is king. And it is, but you got to understand what it really is. And that's just a bunch of pieces of paper.
So we'll definitely be referencing a couple books and a couple people. So go to beyondaveragepodcast.com/005.
Almost forgot. Damn, 5 already, huh?
Yeah, episode 5. So that'll get you all the show notes with the resources, relating to the show. So check that out. So yeah, we're talking about money.
Money. Do you want to? Where do you want to start with this? I mean, I guess a little bit of paying a little history on it of like kind of where money comes from.
Let's first talk about the difference between money and currency, right?
Okay.
To kind of just tell people what the heck we're talking about.
Right. Money would be your silver and gold because it's you can't create it. It's something that you have to dig out of the ground. That kind of property of money has an intrinsic value.
Right, it's rare.
It's rare, yeah. It's a commodity. It's a precious metal. So throughout history, we've been always, no matter what happened in history, we've always came back. We revolve around silver and gold. And we always come back to it as a standard.
Silver and gold historically has been the only real money.
Right, and like I said, no matter what happened in history, back in the day, instead of money printing, they would just add different metals to the. That was their way of inflation.
And we'll talk about that, but basically silver and gold, for a couple different reasons, make good money because, A, it's rare, like we just said, but it's portable, it's divisible, it's small. You could trade cattle, if you want to barter for something, but that's not easily portable.
And
it's not easily divisible.
No, and that was the whole idea about behind currency. Was like, you take salt was a form of currency a long time ago. Feathers were a form of currency. It was a medium of exchange because...
Right, if I want to trade you 1 cow for 10 chickens...
Exactly.
That would work fine if we wanted to trade that, but if I had 10 chickens to trade you for a cow, but you don't want 10 chickens, well then we either couldn't do any business or we had to find a third party.
Right.
And that just became really cumbersome.
Exactly. And let's say like I'm, and it really freed up economic activity because let's say I work in a wood shop. I make birdhouses, and that's what I sell. I have to find people with the goods and services that I need that need birdhouses.
Which is difficult to do.
Exactly.
Especially back in the day when there was no internet or means of communication other than seeing people in person. So
it was really difficult.
So this was a big problem, which is why we started using currencies. So.
Yeah. And then the salt example, it's very easy to portable, weighable, divisible, and if, you don't spend it, you can always use it for food storage or, to plant your food.
Right, so most people had a need for salt. So even if I wanted your cow and you didn't want my chickens, we could just trade salt for the cow anyway.
Right.
and it would work that way. There's obviously other problems with salt in that it's hard to carry around, it spills, all these other things. So,
Right.
but the basic difference between currency and money is that, currency, like our dollar, a $100 bill isn't actually worth $100. Like think about the piece of paper that is a bill. Is that actually worth $100? That thing, that green thing? No, it's just a piece of paper.
It's worth 100 units because that's the price we put on it. I mean, that's the face value of the money. That's what it says, but
Right.
that's the value we put into it.
Whereas we're drawing the distinction between that and actual gold and silver, which intrinsically, in and of itself, has its own value.
And a good way to think about like modern day currency is what you're saying is like if you really take a dollar bill and a $100 bill and put them next to each other, tell me besides the two extra zeros on one of them, what's the difference between the two?
Right, there is no difference. It's just paper.
Exactly, and it's just a piece of paper, and that's all it really is.
Now, back in the day when our dollars when we were on the gold standard, those dollars represented gold. And
Exactly.
so it was
They're
easier
notes.
it was easier, they were banknotes, they were easier to transfer and more divisible than the actual physical gold and silver itself. So it made sense.
And it was fully redeemable up until a certain point. You can walk in with a $20 bill and redeem that in 1 ounce of gold.
Right.
And now obviously that's not the case. You can't do that. It costs I think it's actually low right now. Gold, it's like $11.90 an ounce. That's $1,100. $1,190.
Well, let's take it back to the beginning. So throughout history, something like 5,000 or 6,000 years of modern civilizations, they've used gold and silver as money
Right.
for all the reasons we mentioned.
Exactly. It was, and it's not, and then the good thing is, the convenient thing about silver and gold is that you can take it anywhere. I can be from Germany. I can travel all the way across to 5,000 years ago, Russia, and I can trade someone so it was universally recognized as money.
And just as desirable there.
Exactly. Because it has so many uses. Silver and gold both have a lot of uses. Now it's used in medical, and like stents you put in your chest for all the electrical equipment for the show. Our mics, our
Silver
computer,
is, yeah.
silver's in it.
Which is, and we'll get into that later, but as
Right.
why silver might even be a better idea to invest in than gold right now.
Yeah, but basically silver and gold they're just for decoration, for art. They're just a very valued metal. I really can't explain the reason why we as humans put such a value on a piece of metal. Maybe because it's so scarce, and we have what we have on Earth, and that's it.
Yeah.
But it's just something that we always put value in. So no matter what currency we tried to deviate into a currency, it always came back to silver and gold all throughout history.
So any monetary system since 5,000 or 6,000 years ago that used silver and gold, worked good enough, and then it's just countless numbers, hundreds of times, where all these civilizations, they get away from gold and silver, and they go to a fiat currency, which is exactly what we have today. Our dollar is a fiat currency because it's not backed by anything.
And to give you a better idea, if you look at the top of your dollar, it says Federal Reserve Note. And what a note is basically, me and you, if it wasn't illegal, and there's a reason why it's illegal to make your own currency, but I can write an IOU to you, like I owe you $10, and you can take that and you can spend that IOU. That's really the idea behind it. You can go buy something and says, well, here, Corey owes you $10, give me that good, and that's kind of what currency works.
Right, and then you can get the $10 from Corey.
We're just trading IOUs back and forth, exactly. And as we mentioned before, it used to be redeemable. That was worth something. It was backed by a piece of gold.
Yeah.
But now, like you said, it's a fiat currency where it's not backed by anything. It's really backed by our confidence. And as soon as we lose confidence in that dollar, that's when you run into trouble.
And everybody thinks that somehow it's different today than it used to be. History just repeats itself over and over and over again.
The one thing we learn that you can learn from history is we don't learn from history.
Yeah. The most interesting fact around this whole subject to me is that every single civilization ever in the history of recorded history.
Right.
History of recorded history.
You say whatever you want. It's
We'll
your
go.
podcast.
It's my podcast.
I'll say what I want.
We'll go with that. In the history of recorded history, every single civilization who had a fiat currency, the currency eventually went to zero. It's gone.
Yep.
It's worthless.
100% of the time.
100% of them.
I don't know about you, but if they had that game in Atlantic City, I'd play it every time.
I would play that one. And guess what? we currently have a fiat currency.
And not only the thing that's crazy about now, it's a world. The world's involved. We all have fiat currencies.
Yeah.
Because everything is tied to the dollar, which is tied to gold. But the dollar's not tied to gold anymore. So it's just kind of a free-for-all of papers flowing around. And right now we have a currency war, which is very interesting. Basically, countries are fighting to keep their currencies cheap, because once your currencies go too high, it starts messing with imports and exports,
Right.
makes things more expensive, to bring them into the country. It's just other countries can't compete with a currency that's too strong. So right now all the countries are fighting to keep their currencies weak, which is so odd. You're fighting to keep, really hurts the people.
It's certainly not in the benefit of the people of that
Exactly.
country. And it's funny because we're doing exactly the same things that like the Romans and the Greeks did thousands of years ago, except now it's just numbers in a computer. So when we
Right.
talk about inflation, and by the way, let's define inflation and deflation real quick, because most people don't know what it means.
And there's kind of also a few different, it's all the same definition, but depending on what you're applying it to, it kind of changes a
Well,
little
well, the
bit.
true definition of it is an expansion or a contraction of the money supply. Now, people say, "Oh, the prices are going up. That's inflation." Well, no. An increase in the money supply is inflation. Rising prices are a symptom or result of inflation.
The best visual I ever got with that was, it was like cartoony too. I think it was a Mike Maloney video, and it had a sponge as prices that was labeled on the sponge, and water that was dropped into the bucket was inflation, which is the money being,
Right.
So and the prices absorb that, and the sponge gets bigger. Just like that's what happens is the money supply has to be absorbed, and it gets absorbed into the prices, and then you see it at the checkout counter.
Yeah, I've heard almost a similar thing, whereas if you think of the economy as like a fish tank, and the money supply is the water in the fish tank, as the economy grows, if the money supply or the water grows equally with it, it'll stay at the same level. But basically what we're doing is our fish tank, the size of our economy is stagnant, and we're just pouring way more water into it. And you can see the water level rise and rise and rise, and that kind of gives you a, same type of idea of how that
Right.
works. But yeah, going back to the Romans and the Greeks. So what they used to do is they used to have these little metal coins with the emperor's face on it or whatever, and they used to melt them down, re-stamp the coins, but they would add in like garbage metals, copper or whatever else, or bronze, into their gold. So instead of they would take 10, gold coins, and then they'd have 20 coins that were half gold and half bronze or whatever. And we're doing exactly the same thing today. It's no different.
And the very interesting parallel between us and the Greeks, Roman, any fiat
Great
currency,
civilization.
great civilization that fell because of this, is it always started off with a very sound economic economy. Everything was great.
Small government.
Money was sound. Small
People were
government.
free.
Exactly. And then what happened was the government starts implementing these new, they call them jobs, but I mean they're government jobs, government spending through social programs, creating jobs.
It's one of the problems with democracy.
Yeah, exactly. It just kind of finds its way in, and that is a flaw in democracy.
Right. Over time, people start voting for more and more stuff
Yep. And
because they feel like somebody else is paying for it.
exactly. And what happens is eventually they get caught up. That country always gets caught up in some kind of costly war.
Yeah.
And then to support the war and the new public programs and all this spending,
They can't do it on their current budget.
exactly, and they have to create money. And so back then, what they would do, like you were saying, they would just, it was pretty wild. They would just melt down their silver and gold, add some base metals to it that were a lot cheaper, and then
Does that sound familiar? I mean, we're not melting metals down, melting quarters.
it's a lot easier to create inflation now. We create inflation every time you swipe your credit card.
Yeah, it's just money that
money
comes
doesn't
into
ex-
existence.
exactly.
Well, right, and and we use we fall victim to using the term money interchangeably. Right, it's really not money.
It's just because that's just the culture of, that's what we call it. It's
Yeah.
money. It is money. But if you boil it down to the definition,
Right.
it's a currency, and the reason why it's a currency. Another thing I heard was funny. It's current. You don't want to hold on to it. Keep it going. You don't want it in your pocket. You want real assets
Right.
and real things, which precious metals is great.
So yeah, I
So
mean,
that's kind of the history on it. Is there?
and most people see how obvious it is that if a government is taking their own money supply, which is gold and silver, melting it down, adding base metals, and diluting the value of it, most people see how that's wrong. But then for some reason, when it happens today, because it doesn't happen in a physical form, it happens by just adding like inflation today just happens when you add zeros into a computer.
Right.
It doesn't involve any necessarily more
It seems so harmless.
printing money.
Yeah.
And so it's harder to see or harder to conceptualize, I guess you could say, but just as dangerous.
Very dangerous. And I think currently people are just become so lackadaisical with the way they view things. They just allow all this crazy shit to go on. I just don't.
And the other thing is like
they're stealing from us. Like your dad always gets off on this tangent, and he's right though. They are. They're sticking their hands in our pockets by doing this. And
if you think of your money as a candle, it's like taxes are the flame on one end, and inflation is the flame on the other end, eating it away.
Yeah.
And people always bitch and moan about taxes. Nobody cries about inflation.
No, it's another tax. They tax you through prices. And another interesting way they get to taxes. Let's say for anybody making $50,000 and under gets taxed at 20%. I think that's kind of what it is. Like they say it's 15%, 20%, but
whatever.
You'll see more out of your paycheck than that. So you get taxed through that. Well, let's say inflation really starts kicking up and you start making $80,000, $90,000 a year, where the taxes are a little higher. It's a higher percentage.
Yeah, you're in a new bracket, but
when prices are so high, it doesn't matter. You still have you still have the same spending power, the same economic position.
Except you're getting taxed more.
Exactly. So that's just another tax you can think about. Taxes on inflating prices. Obviously, higher price you're paying, that's a higher sales tax you're paying. So it's more money out of your pocket. Like, it's a never-ending spiral of.
And inflation hurts the poor and like lower middle class people the most because they
don't got a lot of money to begin with.
Right. It doesn't only like taxes only affect over certain income levels, whereas inflation doesn't care which dollar it is. It dilutes the value of all dollars. Mm-hmm. So, what's the difference of having $10 and the government taxes you half of them and now you have $5, or if you have $10 but now prices rise so that what used to cost $10 now costs $20.
Right.
You're in the same spot.
And just as you mentioned before, it's like the reason why inflation is such a dangerous and scary tax is because most people can't conceptualize it. They don't see it as a tax. They just see it as, well, that the TV says that we're supposed to go up a couple percentage inflation a year.
Yeah. The other thing that pisses me off is when people talk about the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. It's supposed to be a basket of goods that's supposed to accurately reflect the changing prices in the economy, and it's 100% bullshit.
Right.
They constantly rewrite the way they measure it to keep it low.
Right.
Because it's politically favorable for them to say, oh, look, there's no inflation, the CPI is some ridiculously low number. But all you have to do is ask anybody who goes grocery shopping or anybody who buys things, just go to the store. Do you feel like prices are going up? Of course they are. I mean, McDonald's dollar menu doesn't even exist anymore.
No, they still have it. It's called the value menu, and they changed it to that for a reason.
I mean, just think about that. There used to be like 12 or 15 items for $1.
Right.
Now there's like maybe one item for $1, but most of the things are $1.49, $1.89. Those are like 50, 60, 70, 100% increases in price over 10, 15. I remember being a kid walking home from school, Jem's Bagels in Keensburg, New Jersey. Used to get a bagel and cream cheese, big-ass bagel, loaded up with cream cheese for $1. Hand the lady $1, you walk out. Tell me where you can find a bagel or cream cheese now for less than $2. It sounds stupid, but it's double the price.
Yeah.
And people just take it for granted, like, well, why do prices go up? That's just because they do. They don't just do that. It's because
that's the whole point of this show. That's just an average way of thinking. Well, it just happens like that.
Prices have to go up.
Don't you want to know why it happens? I mean, that's the thing. People don't ask the question why enough, and they don't ask why. And it's funny how it went from deflation isn't it's painted as such a terrible thing. But it's really not. It's a contraction.
I love this argument too. Yeah, if you watch TV, they say, "Well, we don't want a deflationary economy.
We're going to get into a deflationary spiral." They call it.
Wait, you mean you don't want your money to gain purchasing power over time?
You
don't want prices to come down over time? What do you mean?
And the only drawback to deflation that I can see that's a valuable it's a value point is the fact that wages will come down, but
not real wages, nominal wages. The dollar amount. Ideally, what you want is steady prices, right?
Exactly.
But even a point or two of deflation, in my opinion, is good. Right. nominal wages in terms of the actual dollar amount you're getting paid might be lower, but your purchasing power is increasing. That's really what's important.
Exactly. But the thing is that it's not favorable, because as soon as one politician says anything about lower wages, whoa, look at this guy. Well, he wants everyone to be poor in this country, and then it gets into this whole smear campaign. And
people are okay with getting a 3% raise. Meanwhile, prices go up 8%, 10%, 12%.
And
they don't seem to understand how they're worse off.
It's crazy. I heard this interesting point is, like, back in maybe like the 1840s, you can take a box of silver, gold, or your money, or whatever. You can put it in a box and put it in your attic. It would actually be gaining value.
Yeah, so it's funny because, and I'm sure you've talked to older family members.
Right, I know
my grandparents would say, back in my day, a loaf of bread was a nickel or whatever. But their grandparents would tell them how expensive things used to be.
And prices went down, right?
Right, because before we had the Federal Reserve, which is the single most evil, I don't even know what you call it, organization.
Right.
Because it's not federal. It's not part of the federal government.
No.
It's the single most powerful organization in the world, that's for sure. Before we had that in 1913, prices steadily fell, throughout America's history. And only after the Fed was created, in between 1913 and now, and what is it? I think the dollar has lost like 95% of its purchasing power.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's been exponentially getting faster. I think it took like 40 years to lose like the first 25 to 50%, and then it took like 20 years to lose the next 25, and then the point is it's gonna.
If you look at the graph, it's like going straight up.
Yeah.
At this point.
And I don't know if anybody of our listeners ever ridden a roller coaster. But you just don't go to the top and then stay up there,
No.
You come down pretty quick. And so basically,
but why are we talking about inflation? Because
I was about to say it kind of ties perfect into the whole silver and gold thing. Silver and gold is a great way to preserve value, because no matter what currency you're using, throughout time you can always transfer your silver and gold into that currency.
Right, and then into real assets, like whether you want to buy food or real estate or whatever else. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'll give a shout out to Dave Ramsey. We were talking about him.
No, don't mention Dave Ramsey on my show.
He's the poor man's financial advisor. I was actually reading one of his books, and he has some good points on debt.
No, he doesn't.
His techniques to get out of debt.
No, they're not.
But
What'd he say?
Anthony hates this guy, and for good reason. He is kind of he's well intentioned. He's trying to help. Maybe what he did worked for him, but he's kind of an average thinker, really. But one thing he said in his book that kind of shut me off to him was he said how gold's a terrible investment. I'm just like, it's not. You're not looking to make huge gains on gold right now. You most certainly can.
Gold and silver, what it's going to do is preserve your purchasing power.
Exactly.
It preserves your wealth.
So no matter what the currency's doing, up, down, left, or right, you have your wealth preserved in silver or gold, and that's the idea behind it. But right now, silver and gold are great investments because of how suppressed they actually are. They're constantly manipulated by the big banks, because if we see $100 silver and 10,000 ounce gold, people start losing confidence in the dollar, and they're kind of like, they start questioning things. So when they keep suppressing these prices down, and right now I checked it this morning, it's kind of the lowest. This is the lowest I've seen it, actually.
This is the lowest I've seen silver since
$15.60.
When I first started looking at silver, I think it was like 2008. It was like $16-17, and right now it's even $1 below it.
And you caught it right before the big spike, and when it went all the way up to over $40.
Yeah, I started buying silver at around $20 an ounce, because you pay a little bit of the spot price of silver. The actual price is,
right.
Let's say it's 17. When you buy silver coins, and we'll talk about how to do that, you pay a little bit extra.
So stay tuned. That's where it gets good, because we'll tell you how to buy the stuff.
Yeah.
And silver's
what do you think they're bored? They're riveted right now. So you pay a little bit over spot price to buy your silver coins. So I was all in for like $20 per ounce. And I saw silver go up to like $30, $33, $35. And then we had at one point, I think it might have been 2011, where it spiked at $50 an ounce for a day or two, and then kind of came back down. And the point of telling that is basically that the silver and gold markets are so manipulated right now. I'm not smart enough to understand how these big banks manipulate the prices. They're selling short, I think, ETFs that track silver and gold.
Yeah, and what
to
they'll
help-
do is they'll take two separate. They can be owned by the same entities, but they'll take two separate like little banks, and what they do, they bid the price down. They keep selling it back and forth to each other, and that just keeps just driving it down, 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 down. And if you have banks doing this all day, that's kind of how. That's one way to suppress it. There's other ways too, like you said. There's just
Whether you're shorting like silver that doesn't really even exist.
exactly yeah.
Because you're investing in ETFs, which are just basically similar to a stock as opposed to actual physical coins.
It's a claim on that silver or gold that
But it makes no difference because they can only do that for so long.
yeah.
Eventually, when the shit hits the fan, which it will, interest rates are going to spike. Inflation is going to be very easy to see. Prices are going to be rising very quickly. And silver and gold are going to go through the roof. They're going to blow the tops off their previous highs. And people who are holding these metals are going to be doing really well.
And the idea is it's you always want to buy assets at when they're undervalued and sell at overvalued. So, I mean, you got to get a better general understanding of, whatever you're going to put your money into, whether it's stocks, bonds, real estate. But what you want to do at that point is you're going to sell off some of your precious metals and put that money into maybe some real estate. Because back in the 80s, I think it was 1,000 ounces of silver bought a single family home. And they're saying this time around it might take like 500 ounces of silver. And if we do the math on that, what's $20 times 500? What's that?
10,000 or something?
10,000. 100,000. Hold on, $20 times
1,000
times 500 is 10,000. Yeah. So did I say 5,000? I meant to say 500 ounces of silver. But,
Whatever it is.
But yeah, so if you go to a single family home with 500 ounces of silver, that's $10,000 today.
Yeah.
Which
Just shows you how
show me where you can find a house for $10,000, a decent house.
it
not
shows
a
you how
rundown.
undervalued silver is. right
Exactly.
now.
And that's how you measure things. You got to compare it to other things and see, well, what can I buy with it if it's in this, or how much bread can I buy? Anything.
So that's kind of a little history on the history of metals and kind of up to this point. And so let's just do a little recap before we kind of go into how you actually buy silver. So we talked about the difference between currency versus money, that gold and silver are the only real money. 5,000 years of history has proved that. We currently do not, most people don't even know, not most people, some people don't even know that our money is not backed by gold. If you could believe that. People still think our money is backed by gold. It's not. It's backed by nothing. Absolutely nothing. So gold and silver are the only real money. And with all the inflation that we need to support this top-heavy government with all these all the ridiculous spending.
We're in a government bubble. That's what it is.
We're in a government bubble.
Big time.
And when this crashes, you're going to want gold and silver because it's going to protect your purchasing power.
Right.
Because the inflation is going to be running rampant. So,
And we discussed this before. Like, I'm a little more believer in hyperinflation than you are. Safe to say, not that you don't think it can happen. You just think it's less likely.
well, I think inflation will be really bad. I don't know if it will be like Weimar Republic, Germany, or what's the African country? Was it Zimbabwe? Where they had like $1 trillion bills.
Right. It was interesting. It cost in the 80s it cost $1 for a can of soda. In the year 2000 it was like $20-something for a can of soda. And by the year 2007, going into 2008 when they officially crashed, it was $86 billion for a can of soda.
Right.
$86 billion. So you are literally going to the food store.
Basically,
with
their
bags of
monetary
money.
system totally collapsed.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think Anthony's maybe like, 1090, 2080 on that, like the percent,
I don't know.
versus-
Yeah, I don't know if that'll ever happen in the United States. I think we're going to have a currency crisis for sure. My hope is that we'll have, the next Ron Paul or whoever it is, kind of rise from the ashes and
Hopefully.
kind of be able to get into
Hopefully
some position of
it's-
leadership
hopefully it's
and get
someone
us
like
in the
that.
right direction.
Exactly, and hopefully it's someone like that, because if you remember what rose out of the ashes of the Weimar Republic, it was Hitler. So
Yeah.
you got to be careful of who, because people are just looking for answers at that time.
Well, that's what happens. People get scared, and it's very turbulent times, and are looking for someone to lead them.
And someone that can talk real good.
And that's what happens. But we're not saying Hitler's coming. We're just
no,
saying,
it's just something to think about.
we're just saying that it's going to be uncertain
Keep your heads
times
up.
once we have a currency crisis, which we will.
Right.
So if you follow all that so far, you're probably saying, okay, so I should buy some silver or some gold. Which one do I buy? Do I buy both? How do I buy it? Well, the short answer is historically, silver and gold had a price ratio that they used to be kind of tied together. It was like 16-1 historically. So gold would cost 16 times more than an ounce of silver. That ratio we've seen
It's like 50 now, 51, right?
In our
Little more than
experience
that,
with
60.
silver, it's been way higher than that. 20, 30, 40, 50 times, the price for gold to silver. Basically meaning that silver is way undervalued. And the reason we actually like silver better than gold, not better, but it's better for the beginner to get into, is for one simple reason that I like to mention is that gold is hoarded. Most of the gold that's ever been mined is still in existence. It's in jewelry and stuff, and you keep it in your house, and it never goes anywhere. Silver is consumed.
Right.
We were talking about this off air.
And I hear a few different statistics of like, I heard this a few, I can't confirm any of them because I heard it from too many different places to really, but I've heard that some people say like 90% of all the world's silver has already been mined. And other people say like maybe only 60% of it, but they already know where all the rest of it is. They just have to get it. And like, but put it this way, it's running out. And like you said, it's consumed.
Silver is now more rare coming out of the ground than gold.
Yes, that's true.
So silver is a good place to start. You could buy it a couple different ways. You could you could buy futures contracts. You could buy ETFs, which are exchange traded funds, which is sort of like buying a stock of silver. That's really a really simple explanation of it, which is probably the easiest way to do it, but not the best. You could buy it online, but the best way to do it is to go to your local coin shop and buy physical silver bullion.
Because if you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Right. You want physical silver coins.
Right. And you go to a place that you trust, and to find a place you trust, you can easily go in there and ask a few questions. And if they're just trying to upsell you on generic this, or they want to sell you this, or sell you some
And don't buy commemorative coins, collectible coins. You want American Silver Eagles. Those are the ones our mint makes that is going to be the lowest cost over spot. So if silver costs $15 an ounce, you're buying American Silver Eagle for like $18.
Right. And the generics are a little cheaper, but I'd rather have that stamp of approval from the government, even though it just makes me feel better.
And the $3 extra you pay over spot price, you actually get that back when you sell it. You sell it at a premium too. What we're saying is don't buy a 1 ounce silver coin for $100 because it's supposed to be 1 out of 100.
Right. That's not what we're investing for.
You don't want a commemorative coin. You're not a coin collector.
Right.
You want the actual silver.
Exactly. And actually, Silver Eagles lately have been a little scarce. So,
right. So
I also trust
you basically
Canadian Maples or another.
Canadian Maples.
Stick to those two.
A lot of the major countries have their own silver coins, but or generic silver coins. But don't buy anything commemorative. Buy actual physical silver coins.
The only and if you're buying from a coin shop, you really don't have to worry about this. But generic coins just get me a little nervous, just because you never know if they're pure. You never know where they're coming from. So that's why the coin shop's the best place to go, just because it's physical. You're seeing it, and you can tell the difference between a real Silver Eagle and something else. It's very
You can also buy junk silver, which is not a bad way to go. All of our coins before, I forget the year, maybe we'll link it, but they used to be 70% or 90% silver, depending on
early 60s, I believe.
I think it was early 60s. Used to be made mostly of silver, and so even though it's not pure silver, it's a good way to invest in silver that way.
It's been saturated, but actually it was very interesting. And if any listeners really have the free time to do this, you could try it. But you go into a bank and you get a whole bunch of Silver Eagles, and what you do is you go before that year. And they had like 92% silver in them, or I think it was like 90%. The same as like sterling silver. It was mostly silver.
Right.
But after that year, they're not. So what you do is you go in there, you get like $100 worth of Eagles. You go through them, check the years, you find the ones that are silver, and then you go cash back in your Silver Eagles and you do it again. And I was following this one guy I was doing online like last year, and he made a ridiculous amount of money just hoarding,
Yeah, I've never heard that.
But eventually the banks caught on. They're like, all right, we can't keep doing this, because he would go there and sell them out,
Right.
But that's a good way. I thought that's
So
very innovative.
So go down to your local coin shop. You could just Google it. Any coin shop, even the ones that specialize in collectible coins, usually will sell silver bullion. Don't go to pawn shops. You're gonna get ripped off.
Right. Go to should I give a plug to a place? No.
Yeah. A place that me and Corey have both gone to buy silver.
It's actually right in Howell. It's called Ed's Elegant Coins.
Ed's Elegant Coins on Route 9 in Howell. It's kind of by the Howell-Lakewood border.
And when I go in there, actually, I make it a point every time I go there, I say I'm going to learn one thing. And I always sit there, and she's very informative. I'll ask her questions about certain companies, like where they've been from, and if Ed's there, I'll ask them. I was asking about like OPM's a company, and like why we use just anything.
Yeah.
And she's very patient and informative. She likes just informing you
Ask
on
some questions. They'll help you out.
Exactly, that's the point. They're great over there, and
My favorite part about the silver coins, though, is that nobody has an excuse anymore. They want to change their life. They want to start investing, There's no excuse. A silver coin literally costs you $17, $18 today.
right.
If you can't go in and buy one a week, it's not because you can't. It's because you don't want to.
And I think it's pretty safe to say it's probably going to go over $50.
Well over $50.
You just doubled your investment, and it's really likely it's going to get to $100. You just quadrupled your investment.
I think you could say without a doubt, within the next 5 years, silver's going to spike at some point at $100.
And depending on what happens
What's
and how
really
the
gonna
government
happen
reacts.
is silver going to go to $400 or $500 an ounce? Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen there.
But at that point, you have to ask yourself, what's the price of everything else? At that point, it might not be even worth to cash it in because there might be nothing to buy. But
Right.
that's why you have to kind of see where the market's at. But if it is where other prices are crashing and silver's going through the roof, it's time to sell it and get yourself some
then
real estate. And
There's actually, and we're going to link to a couple of videos of Mike Maloney, who's probably the most famous guy on YouTube talking about silver.
Who?
Mike Maloney.
I said Mike Baloney.
Baloney. Mike Maloney. He actually has a chart of when you should sell your silver. When it becomes,
I didn't see that video.
when X number of ounces of silver is worth more than the median price of a single family home. Really interesting
Compares it
stuff.
to the S&P 500 and like
all
how,
different kinds of things. He has all different kinds of graphs. It tells you kind of when you should get out once it tops off, but we're still a ways from that.
And he's like talking to your grandfather when you listen to him. He's very like very low voice, explains it to you real well. You just can't help but listen to him. But he's one of those guys that are just real smart,
And all you people out there with the 401ks and the IRAs, Corey and I aren't the biggest fans of those types of vehicles for your retirement. I don't have one, so I don't know how they work intimately, but I do know there is ways to invest in anything basically through your 401k or IRA if you look hard enough. I know you can invest in real estate through a 401k. I'm sure you can invest in gold. I don't know how much flexibility you have to pick your investments, other than to say you want it to be conservative or aggressive.
I was just talking to actually the woman at Ed's, and I asked her about. I said, how much gold do you guys keep here? And I got a relationship with them now. They know I'm not doing it to rob them. You know, I was just kind of curious. And she's like, well, they barely keep gold in. She just got, I think, 30 ounces, and one of her customers found out, came in and bought like 20 of them.
Wow.
And yeah, it's what's that?
25,000. It's like
$25,000 in gold. Yeah. And I said, well, she's like, well, actually last year she had a woman come in and she cashed in her IRA, and because she wanted to get out of the stocks and everything. She actually bought at the height of the market. She did it the way that most people do, which is what you don't do. You don't buy gold that's just at the top because they get scared.
Did she just cash in the IRA to buy gold, or did she do it through the IRA?
She, to avoid paying taxes on the IRA, she had to roll it into another investment. So she had to buy the gold like kind of on the books. And she had to buy a certain kind of minted gold that's like, I think like $50 extra premium on gold, which on gold is really nothing because it's $1,100 item.
Yeah.
So basically what she did, she did roll it in. Obviously, I'm not sure how she did this. Probably check with your lawyer and accountant.
So figure it out. You can do it. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. You can roll it into it, and that's how she avoided paying taxes on it, was rolling into another investment, which was gold.
And I'm not saying you should cash in your $500,000.
It was $250,000.
Hers was?
Yeah.
I'm not saying people out there, if you have $500,000 in your 401k, you should go buy $500,000 in gold.
Right. Yeah, don't do that. We're not giving any advice on.
Right, but I'm saying you should be invested in precious metals. We also like other things like shorting the bond market, buying foreign stocks, buying real estate through your 401k. There's a whole bunch of shit you could do that we definitely would be in favor of. In addition to having precious metals in your portfolio, but for everybody else, go out there and buy, or even if you want to leave your 401k alone, just go to the store and buy the coins.
Right, and I guess that's really the best advice we can give you is to start investing in it, and
do it now. The coin costs freaking $18. Go buy it.
And it's better to be. I hear this all the time. It's better to be a year or two early than one day too late, because before you know it, you're going to be watching and you're going to get pissed off at yourself because you're going to be watching silver jump $10 a day, $20. You know, who knows if we ever get there? But
I'm gonna just say it
very
now.
likely.
I'm gonna just say it now. When it's like 2020 and the shit is all messed up, we're gonna link back to this video. And
Oh,
be like,
yeah.
yeah, we told you.
We told you to
We
do
told
it.
you to buy the silver.
There's so many silver and gold haters out there. So if you're on these YouTube videos watching, please don't listen to them.
You have to remember too, if you're on CNBC watching the news, the companies that advertise on there that are the biggest sponsors of those shows, like Vanguard and all these other companies that sell that want you to buy stocks and bonds and stuff, they don't want you buying gold. They don't make money on gold.
Right.
So if they're the biggest sponsors of those shows, what do you think those shows are going to talk about?
Right.
They're not talking about how great silver and gold are.
And I was talking about this with your father, actually. It was Jim Rickards. We mentioned him, and he's a big advocate. And I forget the acronym, but it's basically an organization that is pushing the issue of gold, how they manipulate the prices, and they're trying to get the people to talk about it. And they do it year after year, where they try calling CNN, CNBC, and they're trying to get on the show to talk about it. Nope,
I
never
keep saying,
never take the call. They cannot get on the show to talk about it.
I was talking to Gary Fair the other day, and this is probably a few months ago. He's like he couldn't believe how low the precious metals were, and he agreed with me when I said, "Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Just buy it up."
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's what I'm saying. Some people, I've been buying it since I guess it's been around $19-20, and it's been going down. And normally, you know,
People don't want it to go down. I do. I want to
do.
buy more. Back the trucks up.
yeah, exactly. I see it going down. I'm like, this is awesome.
By the way, I should mention we're both smart enough. We don't have our silver stored in our house, so don't come rob us.
Yeah, that'd be a bad move because I keep other metal too, and also be very weary if you're gonna have it stored in a foreign.
That was a gun reference, right?
Yes, it was. I keep rice, and but basically you want to just know where you're getting it from, and don't buy some future on it on a company that's not reputable. Because what you do, you have a claim on this piece of silver that they probably gave claims to 10 other people on, and when it comes time to redeem it, sometimes you're shit out of luck, and you want to be in that position.
No.
Right?
So buy your silver from the local coin shop. Find someone you're comfortable with, who you trust, and just go buy some.
Do half an hour's worth of research, and we'll try to post some links to this video to help you guys out to get you started.
Yeah, two guys you want to look into are Mike Maloney and Peter Schiff.
Peter Schiff, yeah.
And they actually just did a special together. If it's about an hour long, it's 3 parts if you want to watch it.
You know, they keep fucking with me because they'll show the hour-long one, and then they keep putting clips out of, like, stuff I hadn't
Of new
seen.
stuff,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm like, how long was this interview?
So these two guys just did a collaboration for this project you're talking about, and it was really good. So you
Yeah.
guys got to check it out if you're interested in this stuff. Just watch it. We'll link to it.
And before Warren, Peter Schiff's a little bit of he's a little awkward guy. He's always like waiting to just interrupt him and talk. But when he does talk, he has something smart to say, so you can't, hate on him. But he's a funny guy.
So go to the show notes page, beyondaveragepodcast.com/005. And by the way, we picked 005 instead of like 05 because we're doing a lot of episodes, man.
Oh yeah, we gotta prepare. We
We'll be
probably
doing-
should have put another
We
zero
should
in
like
there.
5 zeros.
Yeah, but that's okay.
We'll be doing
We'll
in
adjust.
2020. We'll be doing episode like 2486. No, it'd be more than that. No, it won't be that many because we're only doing it once a week. But we'll be linking back to this video saying, "Look, we told you to buy it
Or we do like Tom's Wood does it. Tom's Woods, he does a show every day.
daily."
That's too much.
Maybe not.
Maybe
We'll
not.
see how this goes.
But so yes, anything else you want to add? So basically, we talked about the history of it a little bit. Inflation, gave you a little background on inflation, added to the show.
Yeah, we're going to be doing shows in the future on a couple things that are relevant to this. One is the Federal Reserve, and what a crock of shit that is, because most people don't even know what it is or how it works, yet it's the most dangerous thing going. And then we're also going to do an episode, maybe next week, if not soon, though, on the financial crisis of 2007/8 and how that all kind of unfolded.
/2016.
Right, the one that we're still in and the one that we're continuing to make worse.
And Peter has a book out called The Real Crash. Definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah.
And very good book. Very.
But the other book that we want to mention, and I think I have it here somewhere.
The Mike Maloney book.
Yeah. Rich Dad's Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver. And it's the same flag, I guess you could say, under the Rich Dad Company.
And he's saying like the first 60% of the book is just like the history. He just gives you a great history lesson on the book.
Yeah, so it's the same company that wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Right.
and it's affiliated with that. Yeah, it goes through basically the long version of what we just talked about, the
Right.
history of all that stuff, and kind of where we are now, and then the outlook for the future, and also how to, the best way to get invested. So.
And then when I mentioned the real crash, I just mentioned that just because that's the point of that book is when people come up to him and say, "Oh, Peter, you did so great. You predicted the 2008 crash." He said, "No, that's not what the real crash."
That's not the real crash.
Yeah.
That was the precursor to the real show.
Yeah. So we just saw the what's the name? What's it called? The
What's that?
what would you call it? The show before the big show?
Oh, the
Preliminary.
prelude?
Prelude?
No, that's not it.
No, it makes sense.
Is
You want the interlude, right? It's the middle. So
Okay,
it's
we'll go with prelude.
So you guys just experience the prelude, and the main event's coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can find me. That can wraps it up, right?
That's about it.
Even though I don't know why we mentioned our Twitter handles because I get no followers on there. It all goes to the Tweet BAP page. But
So follow us, damn it.
yeah. But yeah, find me at CJ Anderson 71.
I'm at APALM8, APALM8. And the show is at TweetBAP, Facebook.com/Beyond Average Podcast. And go to the website, BeyondAveragePodcast.com, and you can subscribe to the show, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, or watch it on YouTube.
And I actually just add like a little link to our YouTube on the Twitter page, so over to the left.
Cool.
So definitely check us out. It's a good show to listen to. All right, over and out.
That about wraps us up. We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, happy 4th of July weekend. Later.